Only one sale away from the Shopify 1000 Club.
Is that a thing?
Wow, Mom! Have a cookie.
I'll take one.
Dad.
These are delicious. You need to show them.
You should.
Mom!
No, seriously. Let's set you up on Shopify. It's easy.
I always knew you would build your own business.
Guys!
Yum.
When you're ready to bring your idea to life, build it on Shopify.
Sign up for a free 14-day trial at shopify.com/offer22. Shopify.com/offer22.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor and subscribe to the John Kahn Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, first of all, if you're watching us, I am not in some sort of a hostage room. I'm in a room out at the Washington's practice facility. And anyways, go to YouTube, go to Empire Media, hit that like button, that subscribe button. Again, Empire Media, AMPIRE. It would be much appreciated. Today, again, you and me, it's mini camp day 2. So I wanted to give you my thoughts and observations about what I've seen and heard out at the facility. Let's start with a couple things from yesterday. One, Logan Thomas, tight end, said, of course, he wants to get back by week 1. There's no guarantee of that. So he's not pushing. This is not an all in for week 1 situation. This is the desire, but they're not going to force it. I think the same thing is true with Chase Young. I've been told by people close to him, they like how he's been progressing, but nobody is sitting there saying, yes, automatically week 1, he's going to be back. Because what they don't want to do is put that expectation on him. And then if it falls short, it leads to other questions. So it may be more of a bonus than a reality. I don't know yet. I think there's still more to learn on those injuries. But Logan Thomas looked pretty good walking in. He's just walking in and he says the right things, but we don't know yet when he's going to be back. Chase Rouillet, kind of the same thing. He said that he had 3 procedures done on his ankle to fix that. And so he said he feels good about training camp, but we don't know yet. I think there's still more to learn there. But again, progressing in the right direction. So we'll see. Anyway, let's get on to what happened out there today and what happened in the press room. First of all, Warren Sapp, the former great defensive lineman, has been in Washington's practices the last couple of days working with the defensive lineman. It's hard to believe that Sapp could go unnoticed, but he kind of did until today when I think people realized he was here working with the D lineman. This was something that was arranged with Martin Mayhew, the GM, who was a former teammate of Sapp's, and also assistant defensive line coach Jeff Signonia, who was a teammate of his as well and has done this before when he was out in San Francisco. He brought Sapp out there, as did Mayhew. So this is not the first time they've done this, but what of course he's going to work on techniques a lot and all that. But what he's really hammered home, and one veteran told me, it's the mindset. That's the number one thing that some of these players are taking away from Sweat is the mindset that it requires to be great. And as Sapp pointed out a few times, it's not what happens when everybody's out here. It's what happens when nobody's out there. Are you guys willing to go back out there and work on your own together to develop that chemistry that you need to become an effective defensive line? I think it's a good message for this group, given some of the chemistry issues they had last year, or the lack of cohesion along the line during games. It was evident, and it was evident to the coaches, the players, and anybody watching the games. So that's one of the things he's harped on. But again, the mindset. I asked one player what he thought of him out there. He goes, yeah, techniques and all that, but it's the mindset. And I think he hammered that home, and he went from being a really great player in college to being a fantastic player in the NFL. So it's a good message for this group to hear. By the way, he loves what he sees with this defensive line, the tackles. He said that Payne and Allen were thick, and he really likes what he sees out of Montez Sweat. One thing that Montez Sweat came up and talked to the media today, and one thing he said he's not going to do is sit there and boast about, or not boast, but predict what these guys might do as a tandem, meaning he and Chase Young. Just go out there and play. I think that's a smart way to go. As soon as you start putting those kind of numbers on yourself, it often doesn't go well, and it didn't go well last year. But I also wonder if some of that was an influence of Sapp just coming in here saying mindset. So there you go. Next thing is safety rotation. Derek Forrest, and I think I told you the other day, has been working a lot as a third safety. They also like what they've seen from Jeremy Reeves, and that he continues to grow as a player in the NFL. I think the thing that has always held Reeves back, he's not the biggest safety. He's always been a guy that I've liked watching play because I think he sometimes plays bigger than what he is. But as you hear from here, sometimes he does play to his size, and that's something that they're trying to get him out of. But they like what they've seen from him so far. And then there's also obviously Percy Butler. I think again, you're always going to hear that somebody likes what they've seen. So take it for what it's worth. What you go by are actions. And right now, Butler is probably behind those two, based on what I hear, based on what you see. I think the question for Forrest is, how does he react? Does he plays with a certain abandon out there? And that's, if you remember last week, the collision that Jeremy Reeves had with De'Ami Brown, I was told that Forrest has had a few of those because he's just kind of plays, I wouldn't say reckless, but I think it was a little bit like, there's an abandon out there. So can he improve with that? We'll see. But he's looked good so far in pads or with no pads on, and we'll see where it goes. But he right now has been working as the first safety or the first third safety, I guess, because McCain and Curl are the guys. By the way, there was one time, one of the things that I enjoy watching out here is the energy provided by defensive backs coach Chris Harris. And you see it, like he loves to trash talk certain offensive players. There's one in particular that he's been going after on offense, but he also is very vocal in talking to his guys. And he's very much getting up. Listen, all these coaches need to be teachers. I think we see it a lot with Harris because he's very vocal out there. And there was one time with Forrest, for example, where there was a play that came his way, and this Harris immediately pointed out, that's a play where you need to punch the ball out. You've got to punch that ball. And Forrest got it. He said, yeah, he kind of made a comment back to him about how he understood. But that was, again, teaching moment, and that's what you're out here. Speaking of Montez Sweat, looks good. I think he always looks good in these settings. He looked good in training camp last year. I think if you had to say, so last year, even during camp, there were times like if you had to say which one looked better, he or Chase Young, Montez looked really good. And I saw him working as a stand-up end a few times. Nothing unusual. Did it last year. Got by Cosme one time in that way. And then the next time he did that, Cosme was able to get him. Another time he gets around the tight end and he would have destroyed Carson Wentz. But I think he looks pretty good. And again, he said no bold statements this year. By the way, I'm not harping on this one, but somebody asked him about Jack Del Rio today because it's the first time that somebody had a chance to talk to him about it. And the only thing he said is whether or not he agrees with him politically or not, he said that Del Rio has always showed him love and respect. And that's why, and I told you this, that's why I don't think there's going to be any issues. Anyway, moving on. Now, let's go to the linebackers because this is a hard group. I was trying to put together a 53-man roster projection, and you know that there's no depth there, but it's really hard to get beyond the first four. So you got Davis and Holcomb, obvious. Then the next two would be Khaleke Hudson as well as David Mayo. And beyond that, it's a flip a coin, all right? It could be a guy like Trey Walker. I think there's some, he's a guy that I think you could maybe watch this summer as a guy maybe as a fifth linebacker, but I also think they're still going to look at veteran linebackers on the market. Ron Rivera said this today, that they wanted to give a lot of these young guys a chance to show what they could do because with a veteran linebacker, they can come in and get acclimated a lot quicker. That suggests to me that also like some of the linebackers they look at would have experience in this system who would know what to do. So that's why they could wait until maybe July or August to sign them if that's what they wanted to do. So keep an eye there. One of those linebackers, Jamin Davis, told us yesterday how much more confident he is. And I think you could see it even, to be honest, talking to him at the podium, you could feel a guy who's a little bit more confident. And I asked somebody about that today, and they said they absolutely can see the confidence that he's now playing with. Now, I'm going to caution and say he's not where they need him to be. And I don't know when he's going to get there. He's not going to go into the season being where they need him to be. But they do notice the confidence, and guys play better when they're more confident. When he was at Kentucky, it was a little bit different of what they're being asked to do. The linemen go attack and the linebackers play off it. Here he's got to read more. So I think that's something he had to get used to. They have worked him this spring when they run their 5-1 sets, 5 D linemen, 1 linebacker. They've used him in the 1 linebacker set. They've used him in some Mike positions. He definitely is going to play outside, but he definitely said he feels more comfortable playing outside. But the fact that they're using him in some of those other sets suggests that they see a growing comfort level of him on the field. And when I watched him today, you see a guy who's able to maybe move a little, seem to react a little bit quicker on some runs where he gets himself in, he makes an instant move, gets himself in position, and then attacks. So, and sometimes because you've got to read pass or run, but he's in position to then make a play. And I think there was one play where he was able to kind of quickly step up and get step to his right, sees it to run, and then attacks the hole. And it would have been a short gain, assuming he makes the tackle. So, again, not where he needs to be, but they do notice that he's showing more confidence this spring than he was a year ago.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. There are some monthly expenses you just can't get away from, like insurance. You might be looking at your expenses thinking you're going to have to pause on your DIY project, stop collecting vinyl, or even give up your daily coffee fix to have great insurance. Talk about a nightmare. It's a good thing State Farm knows everyone has a budget, and they have a range of options, like insuring your ride and your home with surprisingly great rates on both. With State Farm, you can also personalize your policy, so you get the coverage you need at a price that lets you keep up with your projects, add to your vinyl collection, and continue to enjoy your coffee habits. So forget about giving up what you love to have great insurance. For surprisingly great rates, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
This episode is brought to you by Cheetos Deja Tu Huella. Deja Tu Huella means leave your mark, and that's exactly what Latinos are doing all across the country. They're rewriting the rules and pushing the boundaries in their communities to leave their own unique mark. They use their gift, their superpoder, to make an impact, whether it's through art, music, fashion, food, or something else. And Cheetos will celebrate what they're doing by shining a light on their transformative power. The Deja Tu Huella program celebrates those leaving their mark in Latino communities. You can also celebrate by checking out the new podcast, Batman Unburied, on Spotify. Batman Unburied is presented by Cheetos Deja Tu Huella. Visit Batman Unburied on Spotify to learn more.
Guys, are you looking for that extra confidence when it's time to have fun? Let me tell you about BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men combat all forms of ED. Blue Chew is also an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, all done online. Blue Chew's tablets, made in the United States, and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. And here's our special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code KEIM, K-E-I-M, at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code KEIM, to receive your first month free.
All right, let me turn another page of notes. Antonio Gandy-Golden, playing tight end. Today, he made a really nice catch in the back of the end zone. Leapt up high, over Cam Curl, grabs a Carson Wentz pass. Just a terrific catch and a nice play down there. How is he progressing? Well, I think it's going to be interesting at that position because they moved him there because they felt like he could develop. So I think a big key for him will be just the progression he shows during August. Will he be able to earn a spot? Will he make it a hard decision? How many tight ends do you keep? Do you keep 3? Do you keep 4? Because that's going to make a difference. Then where is Logan Thomas at in this? Is he back for the season opener, or is he going to be out for a few games to open the season? That too will make a difference, how many they keep or who they keep. I think they feel like he's got some potential. So if he shows anything, I think he's going to stick around. But sticking around could also mean practice squad. But I think they like what they have in that room. So he has to emerge. I mean, just what you hear now is not always how it plays out in August, not even close a lot of times. And I'll be honest, sometimes you hear things in early August that it takes a turn in a couple of weeks. I mean, last year, Peyton Barber was a lock to make the roster early in training camp. And then Jarrett Patterson started to emerge a little bit, and then a couple other guys started to emerge in other spots that made it tougher for them in their minds to keep him, whether it's a mistake or not. That's how it went. But the point is, he was a lock before that happened. So, we'll see what happens there. But I know that they like how he's developed so far, What that means, I don't know. And I think another guy to watch here is Alex Armah, not because he's going to be this great tight end, but he can also play fullback. That would also change a little bit of what they can run offensively and maybe enhance or make it a little bit more of a versatile offense if you can run some two-back sets with a guy who's more of a true fullback. Sometimes like you can use a tight end in that spot, but these tight ends are bigger, they're taller. So if you're running into a quote unquote squatty linebacker, 6'1", 230 guy, are you able to get low enough to win that battle? Well, if you have a guy like Armah, you have a better chance. Will they keep him just for that? I don't know, but it's certainly going to be something to watch in training camp. Brian Robinson, talked about him yesterday, like the forward lane. You hear good things when he runs the ball out here, praise for how he's running, where he's choosing to get the hole. One of the things that they wanted him to, or one of the things that was pointed out to him today from running backs coach Randy Jordan after a play was about the angles on the runs he takes and maybe when you should keep it going straight versus hitting an angle to the outside. As Jordan told him, what he said, these are different athletes in the NFL. They can eat up that angle, so you need to go get your yards. So just, that's where you're going to have to understand, like, when do you do that versus when do you cut out? And I think, along those lines, I think Antonio Gibson had to learn some of that more so just get those yards versus trying to always bounce. I'll be curious to see how Gibson runs now that he's shaved. Like I think I told you several weeks ago that he went from 18% body fat to 12% body fat. And I know Sam Fortier from the Washington Post had a long article on Gibson's transformation in the offseason about his food and how he's lost the weight, et cetera. And so that combined with the work he did in Dallas at a training facility left him feeling pretty confident about how explosive he might be. But losing that weight can get him a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, which will help this running back core. All right, finally, Taylor Heineke. He again spoke to us today, talking to the media. One of the things that he did this offseason, because what's the big knock on him? Arm strength. So one of the things he did for the first time, I'm a little bit surprised it was the first time, but he went out to California to work with a coach, Adam, I think it's Adam Dato, who is a guy who has worked with Tom House, who is a guy that a lot of quarterbacks use. Tom House used to be a pitching guru and made his mark in baseball. But he took the mechanics from there and helped a lot of quarterbacks. Colt McCoy went to him. A lot of others have gone to him. And it was about the mechanics. So what Heineke wanted to go there is to work with him on strengthening his arm. And the way he said that he can do that is little things, the hip and getting your hips more involved in your throw. Are you throwing off your front foot or your back foot? Because then it's going to make a difference as far as how much velocity you can put on the ball. So little things like that are what he was working on. I will say, it's funny because today I thought like Carson Wentz had some off-target throws and a couple drives. It was like, not so great. I think Heineke had some of those drives through a deep ball that was picked off by Corn Elder. I don't know where he was going with the ball, and it may not have been his fault. Maybe a receiver runs the wrong route. But he also both of them also had some really nice throws as well. And I think there was one, it was a perfect ball to Markin Michel down the right side. I believe it was Corn Elder in coverage, just dropped a dime in there. And Cole Kelly had one like that to him as well. And it was a perfect throw. Now, maybe Reeves breaks it up. I don't know. And maybe he was, but that's one thing that's hard to tell. He did learn not to hit the guy, but it was a really nice ball by Heineke. And by the way, Mark and Michelle is the guy I told you that when I was talking about Chris Harris, basically liking to talk trash to guys. It's been Mark and Michelle like that. For some reason, those two have been going at it, and Harris was going at him big time yesterday. Very playful. And then today, after Michelle caught that long ball, I started looking for Harris. He goes, "Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at?" And so that's the kind of fun stuff that you like to see in practice, because that's what kind of builds camaraderie, I think. And even though this guy might not even be on the roster, but I think Harris has an ability to do that. One of the things he does well with that, he does bring energy, and I think he does have a lot of fun out there. There's an example. Anyway, that's it for minicamp day 2. Actually, one more thing on Terry McLaurin. Always something on Terry McLaurin. Ron Rivera talked today about how they feel like they certainly value him. He said they're not going to trade him. I knew that was never going to happen, but they value him, and I think they feel good about where this is headed. And I will say I've heard that as well, even just in different places. That I've always told you, I think there's a lot of optimism about this, and I do think that Terry not being here was a big deal, only in the sense that it let everybody know that he was dissatisfied with maybe the direction of where things were, or maybe not the direction, but where it was at. So could that have sped things up? Maybe. But I still think they're going to get it done. And, my optimism level, I think the other day I dropped it to a 7. I'm probably going to go back up to an 8 out of 10 that they get this done. I just don't see that they can do anything but get it done. So I think everybody's going to be able to take a deep breath at some point. If I had to guess, before training camp, certainly. Now, when into that timetable, I don't know. Could it be tonight? Who knows? I wouldn't be shocked at whenever the timing of this goes. But I think the point is that there is optimism there, especially on this side. They clearly value him. They clearly know what he means to the organization. And I think it's just a matter of the contract reflecting that for McLaurin. And then we'll see. So, but again, whatever you say about the optimism, whatever I say, it still comes down to, do you get it done or do you not? Actions louder than words. There you go. That's it for me. I'll be back on Thursday with a mini camp day 3 update. Talk to you next time.